Several of New York Governor Andrew Cuomo's top aides reportedly rewrote a state health report on nursing homes to conceal higher death tolls in facilities. According to the New York Times, several of the governor's senior aides altered the report to cut the actual death toll by nearly half. To date, more than 15,000 nursing home residents in New York have died from COVID-19. This is just one more thing in a series of scandals recently plaguing the governor, who was once praised for his response to the coronavirus pandemic. J. David Goodman co-authored that report from the Times, and he joins us now for more. David, Governor Cuomo initially said he withheld numbers on nursing home deaths over fear the Trump administration would use them against him. But your reporting seemed to find a different timeline. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's correct. And this has been an issue that's dogged the governor for most of the pandemic. The issue of deaths in nursing homes was something that came up really early in the outbreak in New York and elsewhere in the country. You know, you saw a huge percentage of the people that died in the United States have died in nursing homes, and that was true in New York during that first horrible wave. And so the governor, what happened in New York was that after sort of navigating that first period where the outbreak was so severe, the governor came in for a lot of praise for his handling and his sort of reassuring news conferences. But he started to get criticized late in the spring for some decisions he made regarding nursing homes. And so the data about nursing homes started to have a lot of political importance for the governor. And what we discovered was that as the health department in New York was starting to put together a report that was mainly aimed at explaining why there were so many deaths in nursing homes and trying to essentially absolve the governor of responsibility for policies that may have contributed to that, they essentially took out data that their own health department, the aides to the governor, took out data that the health department had wanted to put into the report at the later stage. And this precipitated a bunch of very bitter debates between aides to the governor and top people in the health department. But ultimately, the governor's aides won out, and they essentially hid the number of people that died in nursing homes from public view until very recently, until late last month, when they were finally compelled by a judge and by a report from the state attorney general to make public the entirety of the deaths, which was about 50% higher than what they'd been reporting.
So, David, if this report was trying to absolve the governor and the governor's office of responsibility in these deaths, and thinking back to that time period where so much was unknown about the pandemic and it was really running rampant through the state of New York, why bother to change these numbers? Why did the governor's top aides or the governor himself potentially feel like this was something that they ought to be doing?
That's a very good question, and it's something that's baffled even some people, certainly in the nursing home world, but also people that are close to the governor. This decision to alter the data, knowing that eventually this would have to come out. And what they did, just to be clear, is they counted in their public data only people that died, nursing home residents who died in the nursing home itself. If you were a nursing home resident and you were transferred out of the nursing home to a hospital for treatment for COVID-19, your death, and then you subsequently died, your death would not have been counted in the overall figure released by the state. They'd count you in the overall death number, but they wouldn't count you as a death of a nursing home resident. And that was important at the time because of all the criticism the governor was coming under. It may be, and people that we spoke to felt that the governor was thinking that revealing a higher number at a time when he was really riding high and was starting to work on a book about his pandemic leadership may have been something he didn't want to do, may have undercut the sort of prevailing narrative and complicated it. And so they made a decision then to not include it in the report. They say it wasn't necessary. And it should be said that the report did find, and the health department officials we spoke to agreed, that his decisions in and of themselves didn't contribute, weren't the main driver of deaths in nursing homes. And so this data issue is it's one of these issues where the cover-up may be more substantial than the acts themselves. In this case, there doesn't appear to be any wrongdoing in the report itself, apart from this messing with the data that they did.
And I think, David, that's why it is so baffling to people, because the numbers of deaths were reported. They were just fudged so that they looked like hospital deaths rather than nursing home deaths. In so many ways, it seems like an unforced error on the part of the governor to try and hide that. And as a result, now the New York State Legislature has moved just on Friday to strip Governor Cuomo of his pandemic emergency powers. What exactly did those powers allow him to do? And what's the significance of revoking them?
Well, the governor from the beginning of the pandemic has really taken on for himself, with the okay of the legislature, the ability to issue orders on a broad range of topics in the state. On reopening, on business closures, on really a range of topics without having to go through the legislature. So what that does is give him sort of total authority to run the day-to-day. These are emergency powers that are granted in emergencies. And what the legislature has said essentially is that both the emergency is now not as acute as it was, and this governor can't be trusted in the way that we thought he could in the beginning to handle those powers unilaterally. That he needs to have that the legislature and other political actors need to take more of a role in crafting state policy and not leave it just to the governor.
So Governor Cuomo is also facing allegations of sexual harassment. I want to play a little sound from an interview one of his accusers gave to CBS Evening News anchor and managing editor Norah O'Donnell.
Looking back on all of this, how would you describe Governor Cuomo?
He is a textbook abuser. He lets his temper and his anger rule the office, but he was very sweet to me for a year in the hopes that maybe one day when he came on to me, I would think we were friends, or that it was appropriate, or that it was okay.
So earlier this week, Governor Cuomo apologized for acting in a way that made people uncomfortable, but he maintained that he didn't do anything nefarious and he is not going to be resigning. How has his response been received by the people of New York? Where are his current popularity ratings, given not just the nursing home death numbers that you and I were discussing earlier, but also these accusations of sexual harassment?
Right. I mean, I think you have to take the two things together. The governor has really been buffeted by these two scandals, and his sort of image that he crafted last year is really under assault from a broad, a range of parts of the state. You saw there was a poll out earlier this week that found the governor's approval ratings, while down, are still, moderately good for him. And that while most people, believe that he shouldn't resign, New Yorkers don't really feel that he should run for another term. He's up for re-election next year. And this is really seen by a lot of folks as a sort of, for lack of a better term, a graceful way for him to exit. If he said he won't resign, he doesn't have the personality or the inclination to seem to want to do that, especially at this stage. And so all eyes are sort of looking at the re-election as a time, as a sort of decision point for him. And then challengers may emerge between now and then if he looks as vulnerable as he seems to look today.
Real quick, when will we know if he decides to run for re-election?
Well, he's already been raising money. I mean, Governor Cuomo, one of the reasons that he stayed in office for so long is he's quite a prolific campaign fundraiser. And so he had a very good fundraising showing right before all these scandals broke. He's got a lot of money in the war chest, and he's been governor for a long time. So he does appear to be looking at that. It's the one thing that he could do that his father, who is also governor, never did, that is run for a fourth and win a fourth term. So he's shown all intention of doing that, but he hasn't officially announced yet.
All right. J. David Goodman, thank you.
Thanks so much.